I was 28 years old when my brother looked at our mother lying unconscious in an ICU bed and said something that changed my life forever. Let her die. Not angry. Not emotional. Cold, like he'd been waiting years to say it. 3 hours earlier, someone had sabotaged my mother's brakes. Now she was hooked to machines. Her skull swollen from the impact, while doctors warned me the next 72 hours would decide whether she lived or died. But Bryce didn't care. He walked out of that hospital room without even looking back. And if I hadn't reached into my mother's coat pocket a few minutes later, I never would have discovered the truth. Inside the pocket was a tiny hand-sewn pouch, old blue fabric, worn at the edges, hidden like she never wanted anyone to find it unless something terrible happened. Inside was a brass key, a note, and 2 names that would burn my entire world to the ground. The note said, "Grace, if I don't wake up, use the key. Find the Brennans. They know the truth about who you really are." At first, I thought it was impossible. Then I found out my father had been murdered. My brother had been paid to help do it, and the family I thought was mine had stolen a fortune worth hundreds of millions of dollars. By stealing me, the machines beside my mother's bed kept beeping in slow, steady rhythms while I reread the note for what felt like the 100th time. Find the Brennans. They know the truth about who you really are. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Outside the ICU window, snow drifted across the Boston parking garage lights, soft and silent. Completely disconnected from the chaos swallowing my life whole. I looked at my mother. Bruises darkened her wrist like someone had grabbed her hard before the crash. Her breathing came through a ventilator now. Every inhale artificial. Every exhale borrowed. And suddenly I couldn't stop thinking about Bryce. The way he'd looked at her. Not sad, not scared, hateful. Like he already knew something. I didn't. I called him 4 times, straight to voicemail every time. By midnight, Detective James Wellington arrived with photographs from the crash site spread across a small metal table beside me. "There's no doubt anymore," he said quietly. "Your mother's brake line was punctured intentionally." He zoomed into a photo of the undercarriage, a tiny clean hole. Professional. Controlled. Whoever did it knew exactly how long it would take the fluid to leak out. "This wasn't random," Wellington continued. "Someone wanted her dead." My stomach twisted. Because deep down, I already knew that. The second Bryce walked away from her hospital bed, something inside me started screaming that my brother was connected to this somehow. I just didn't know how yet. After the detective left, I finally opened the cloth pouch again. The brass key had one engraving, Box 156. The names beneath it meant nothing to me. Andrew Brennan, Catherine Brennan. But the date underneath made my blood run cold. April 15th, 1998, my birthday. I immediately searched the names online, and within seconds, my entire reality cracked open. Andrew Brennan had been one of the richest real estate developers in New England, worth hundreds of millions before his death in 2020. His wife, Catherine Brennan, was Boston royalty, charity galas, hospital boards, political connections, and their daughter, Olivia Brennan, 20-8 years old, born April 15, 1998. At Boston General Hospital, the exact same day as me. I stared at Livia's Instagram photos for nearly an hour. Luxury vacations, designer gowns, private jets, a life so wildly different. From mine, it didn't even feel real. But it wasn't the money that terrified me. It was her face. She looked like me. Not identical, but enough dark. Hair, dark eyes, same smile, same cheekbones. I actually dropped my phone. "No," I whispered, but somewhere deep inside me, the truth had already started forming. The next morning, I drove back to my apartment in Portland and searched through old family photo albums like a crazy person. That's when I noticed it. There were No baby pictures of me before 14 months old. None. Every album started after we moved from Boston to Maine. I called Bryce again, no answer. Then suddenly, a text, just one sentence. Let me know when she dies. Stared at the screen in disbelief. Not Mom. Not Patricia. She. Like she was nothing to him anymore. That was the moment fear turned into certainty. Something was horribly wrong. I barely slept that night at 6 a.m. I drove to South Portland to meet my father's old co-worker, Trevor, the man who'd found eyes. Dad dead 9 months earlier. We sat inside a nearly empty diner while snow hit the windows outside. Trevor looked nervous the second I mentioned my father. Your dad was investigating something before he died, he admitted quietly. Something about Boston General Hospital. My pulse spiked. He kept talking about switched records. DNA, babies born the same day. I froze. Trevor reached into his coat pocket and handed me a small black notebook. Ken told me if anything ever happened to him, I should give this to Patricia. Inside were pages of handwritten notes. Hospital names, dates, nurses, DNA labs, and one sentence circled 3 times. They switched the babies. My chest tightened so hard I thought I might pass out. Then I reached the final page. June 13th, 2024. If you're reading this and I'm dead. Gerald Hoffman works for them. Below it, meeting at Boston General tomorrow. Feels like a trap. Dad died 2 days later. Official cause, heart attack. But suddenly I didn't believe that for a second. Neither did Trevor. He told me someone was following your mom too. Trevor whispered. Black SUV, Massachusetts plates. I remembered the fear in Mom's eyes. These last few months, the new locks, the security cameras, the way she jumped whenever. Someone knocked at the door. She knew. She'd known they were hunting her. And now, Dad was dead. Mom was in a coma. Bryce had vanished. I drove straight back to the hospital and searched through. Mom's recovered belongings. Hidden inside her phone gallery was a folder titled Evidence. My heart started hammering. Photo showed the same black SUV parked outside our house. Outside grocery stores. Outside Mom's school. Watching. Waiting. Then I found the photo that changed everything. In the reflection of a storefront window behind the SUV. Silver Audi. Bryce's Audi? I felt physically sick. My own brother was connected to whoever tried to murder our mother. I sat in the parking garage. Afterward, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my fingers cramped, every childhood memory suddenly felt poisoned. Bryce teaching me how to ride a bike. Bryce helping me carve pumpkins. Bryce driving me to school after Dad worked late shifts. Was any of it real? Or had he always hated me? Then another memory surfaced. I was 12 years old doing a school genetics project. I asked Bryce why I had brown eyes when both our parents had light eyes. He laughed and said, maybe you're adopted. At the time, Mom snapped at him so aggressively it shocked both of us. Now I understood why. Because maybe she was terrified the truth would come out. That night, I finally used the brass key First Massachusetts Bank, Box 156. The private viewing room smelled like polished wood and old paper. My hands trembled as the banker slid the safety deposit box onto the table and left me alone. Inside were 7 items: a DNA report, hospital records, a baby bracelet, a handwritten confession, and a USB drive labeled for Grace. I plugged it into my laptop immediately. The video opened, and suddenly my father appeared on the screen, alive, sitting in our garage workshop. His face looked exhausted, scared. Double quotes, Gracie, he said softly. If you're watching this, I'm probably dead. I stopped breathing. He explained everything slowly. A private investigator contacted him months earlier. DNA evidence proved I wasn't biologically related to him or Mom. I had been switched at birth with another baby girl at Boston General Hospital on April 15, 1998. Olivia Brennan, Andrew, Brennan's biological daughter. The wealthy Brennan. Family discovered the truth after Andrew changed his will before dying. His estate, nearly $350 million, would go only to his biological child, which meant me. Dad's eyes filled with tears on the screen. "You are my daughter," he said firmly. "Nothing changes that. Not blood, not DNA, nothing." Then his voice lowered. "If Catherine Brennan realizes you know the truth, she'll come after you next." The video ended. I completely broke apart. Not because I learned I was biologically someone else's child, but because my father knew he was going to die and still spent his final moments trying to protect me. I wiped my eyes and opened. The second video, hidden camera footage, a luxury restaurant. 3 people sitting together. Catherine Brennan, a man in a dark jacket, and Bryce, my brother. The audio played clearly. Catherine's voice was calm. "If Kenneth Hartley exposes the switch, Olivia loses everything." Bryce leaned back in his chair. "So what exactly do you need from me?" "Access," Catherine replied. "Gerald handles the rest." The man beside her smiled slightly. "Gerald Hoffman." Then Catherine slid an envelope across the table. $250,000 now. "The rest after Patricia is handled." Bryce took the envelope without hesitation and smiled. My entire body went numb. He sold us. He sold our father for money. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the laptop. But the worst part came next. Bryce asked one question, and Grace took a sip of wine. "If she becomes a problem, we deal with her too." Silence filled the room afterward. And Bryce didn't object. He didn't hesitate. He didn't defend me. He just nodded like my death was acceptable collateral damage. That was the moment my brother died to me forever. After watching the videos, I sat alone inside that tiny bank room for almost an hour without moving. I couldn't feel my hands anymore. Everything I believed about my life had shattered in less than 20 minutes. Kenneth Hartley, the man who taught me how to ride a bike, stayed awake during my fevers, cried when I graduated college, wasn't my biological father, but he died protecting me anyway. And Bryce had helped murder him. I kept replaying the restaurant footage over and over, hoping I'd misunderstood something. Maybe he was trapped. Maybe he was scared. Maybe there was some explanation that could save him in my mind, but there wasn't. He took the money, he smiled, and he agreed to help them destroy our family. By the time I finally left the bank, the sun was already setting over Boston. I should have gone straight to the police instead. I did something reckless. I wanted to see them. The people who stole my life. The people who killed my father. So that night, I stood outside the Four Seasons ballroom wearing a borrowed black dress and a fake charity ticket, made on Photoshop 20 minutes earlier. The Brennan Foundation Gala, $1,000. Plate crystal chandeliers glowed through the windows while string music floated across the lobby. Rich people laughed like the world had never hurt them. And standing at the center of all of it was Catherine Brennan. Elegant silver gown, perfect posture, soft smile, cute woman who looked like she donated blankets to orphanages instead of arranging murders. People adored her. Men kissed her hand, women complimented her speeches. Nobody in that room knew she ordered my father's death. Then I saw Olivia near the bar and my stomach twisted, because seeing her in person felt like looking into some alternate version of my own life. If the switch never happened, that could have been me. Private schools, luxury. Vacations, designer heels instead of student debt. But something about her eyes unsettled me immediately. Cold, empty, like she enjoyed power too much. Then Bryce appeared beside her. My brother laughed at something she said and wrapped an arm around her waist casually, like they'd been together a long time. I felt sick, while Mom cried herself to sleep after Dad died. Bryce was drinking champagne with the people who murdered him. I followed Olivia when she walked toward the restroom hallway. The second we were alone, I spoke. Olivia Brennan. She turned slowly. Yes, my name is Grace Hartley. I watched. Recognition hit her face instantly. Not surprise. Recognition, which meant she already knew exactly who I was. She recovered fast, though. Should I know you? I stepped closer. Boston General Hospital. April 15th, 1998. Her expression changed completely. Every trace of friendliness disappeared. You should walk away. She said quietly, you stole my life. She actually laughed. No, she replied calmly. You stole mine. I stared at her. My parents are dead because of your family. Livia crossed her arms. Your father should have minded his business. The words hit me like a slap. You admit it. She leaned closer. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I pulled out my phone slightly. Hidden recorder running. Good. Keep talking. My father found the truth. I said carefully. So, Catherine killed him. Livia's smile scared me more than yelling would have. Careful, Grace. You tried to kill my mother too. Not my fault. She survived. Every nerve in my body exploded. She said it so casually, like discussing whether I swallowed hard. You're insane. No, Olivia whispered. I'm protecting what belongs to me. It belongs to me. She stepped even closer until we were inches apart. You think blood makes you special? She hissed. You grew up in a tiny house in Maine. You design logos for coffee shops and barely pay rent every month. You are not one of us. The cruelty in her voice cut deeper because it was true. She knew exactly how to humiliate people. You'll never survive in our world, she continued. And if you keep digging, you'll disappear just like Kenneth Hartley did. There it was, the threat. Recorded perfectly. Then she smiled again and fixed her lipstick like nothing happened. You should have stayed hidden, Grace. And she walked away. I stood frozen for 3 seconds before another voice appeared behind. Me, Miss Hartley. I turned. Gerald Hoffman. Dark coat. Same face. From mom's surveillance photos, same man who killed my father. Up close, he looked terrifyingly ordinary. Not some movie villain, just a tired-looking man with dead eyes. Mrs. Brennan wants you removed from the event, he said calmly. You murdered my father. He tilted his head slightly. Can you prove that? I will. His expression didn't change. You should stop before this gets worse. You sabotaged my mother's car. Still no reaction. People have accidents every day. Rage exploded through me. You think you'll get away with this forever? Hoffman smiled faintly. People like the Brennans always do. Then his voice lowered. And if you're smart, you'll go back to Maine and forget what you learned. Not scared of you? You should be. He looked directly into my eyes when he said the next part. Because next time, there may not be a hospital waiting afterward. Cold terror rushed through me, but beneath the fear, something else grew stronger. Hatred, pure hatred. I walked out of that hotel shaking so hard, could barely unlock my car. Then I drove straight to Boston Police Headquarters. Detective Wellington met me close to midnight. I dumped everything onto the table, the USB drive, the DNA, reports. The recordings. The videos, the hidden camera footage. He watched all of it without interrupting once. When Bryce appeared on screen accepting money to help kill Dad, Wellington's jaw tightened. Then he looked at me carefully. Miss Hartley, this is enough to open a homicide investigation. I almost collapsed from relief. Finally, someone believed me. The next 48 hours moved fast, too fast. The FBI got involved after tracing wire transfers from Catherine Brennan to Bryce. 2 payments, $250,000 each, $500,000. That's what my brother sold us for. The medical examiner reopened Dad's autopsy. This time, they caught it. Immediately, potassium chloride. It's poisoning injected before death. Designed to mimic cardiac arrest. Kenneth Hartley was officially ruled murdered. I Cried harder hearing that than I did watching the video because now it was real, permanent. Final. Dad didn't just die, he was hunted, and Bryce helped them do it. Then Detective Wellington showed me security footage from Boston General Hospital, June 15th, 2024. The day Dad died, Bryce used his administrator keycard to unlock a restricted basement electrical room. 90 seconds later, he walked away, leaving the door cracked open. At 3:02 p.m. My father entered. At 3:04 p.m. Gerald Hoffman followed him inside at 3:37 p.m. Hoffman exited alone. Dad's body was discovered less than 40 minutes later. I stared at the footage, feeling physically numb. Bryce knew. He knew exactly what would happen in that room. And still walked away. The FBI wanted a confession, so they asked me to wear a wire and confront him directly. Part of me was terrified. Another part wanted it. I needed to hear him say it to my face. Needed to know whether there was even one piece of my brother left worth saving. The meeting happened March 10th. 7 p.m. Bryce's apartment, an FBI transmitter rested beneath my sweater while agents waited nearby, listening to every word. Bryce opened the door, looking annoyed more than nervous. "You shouldn't have come here," he said immediately. I walked inside slowly. "Did you love him at all?" His face hardened. "Who? Dad? He wasn't my father." The words hit like a gunshot. I stared at him. "What?" Bryce laughed bitterly. "You still don't get it? Mom and Dad figured out the DNA issue years ago. I'm their biological son. You're not." I felt sick hearing him say it out loud. "But they still loved you more," he snapped. "Everything was always about protecting Grace. That's not true." "It absolutely is. Dad ruined his life trying to protect you." My voice cracked. "So you murdered him?" Bryce looked away. "I gave Gerald access. That's all. You knew he'd kill him." Silence. Then, finally, Dad was going to destroy everything. I felt tears burning my eyes. "He loved you," Bryce scoffed. "No, he pitied me." The bitterness inside him was horrifying. Years of jealousy, resentment, hatred, all hidden beneath the surface while we ate dinner together like a normal family. "What about Mom?" I whispered. "Did you help them hurt her too?" She wouldn't stop digging. My stomach dropped. "You told Catherine she knew the truth. She was going to expose everything, and that was worth killing her over." Bryce exploded. "Suddenly, you don't understand what it's like watching someone else inherit your entire future." I froze. "So that was it. Not just jealousy. Greed, pure greed. You chose money over us." I chose reality," he snapped. "You were about to become worth $350 million while I got nothing. You already had a family." "No," Bryce shouted. "You did." Silence swallowed the apartment. Then Bryce said the one thing I'll never forget for the rest of my life. "You should have died in that crash instead of Mom. It would have solved everything." My heart stopped. Outside, FBI agents moved instantly. The door burst open. "FBI, don't move." Bryce stumbled backward in shock as agents slammed him against the wall and cuffed him. "You wired me?" He screamed at me. Tears streamed down my face. "You killed Dad." Bryce's expression twisted with hatred as they dragged him away. "No," he shouted. "You destroyed this family." But he was wrong. He destroyed it the moment he decided money mattered more than love. Bryce's arrest made the news before sunrise. Boston hospital administrator arrested in murder conspiracy. His mugshot was everywhere. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hollow. Because none of it brought my father back. And my mother was still lying unconscious in a hospital bed while the people responsible prepared to fight like cornered animals. The FBI moved fast after Bryce confessed. Gerald Hoffman was captured 2 days later in New Hampshire trying to cross into Canada with fake identification and $30,000 in cash. Catherine Brennan and Olivia were arrested the same afternoon. The footage of Catherine being led from her mansion in handcuffs exploded across every news channel in America. Boston's Queen of Philanthropy, murder suspect. People were stunned. I wasn't. Monsters always look normal from a distance, sometimes elegant, sometimes charming. Sometimes they smile while donating money to children's hospitals. The probate hearing was scheduled for April 19th. That was the day my entire identity would officially change forever. I barely slept the night before. Outside the courthouse, reporters packed the sidewalks, shouldered choser. Camera flashes exploded the second I stepped out of Detective Wellington's car. Grace, are you really Andrew Brennan's biological daughter? Did Bryce Hartley confess? Do you believe Catherine Brennan ordered the murders? I ignored all of them and walked inside. The courtroom was already full. Journalists, socialites, hospital executives, true crime obsessives. Everyone wanted to watch one of Boston's richest families destroy itself in public. And sitting at the defense table in a cream-colored suit was Catherine Brennan. Even in handcuffs, she looked composed, like she still believed money could save. Her Olivia sat beside her looking pale and exhausted. No makeup, no designer glamour anymore. And then I saw Bryce. Orange jail uniform, wrists chained. He wouldn't look at me. Good. I didn't want him to. Judge Patricia Morrison entered. At exactly 10 o'clock, the room fell silent instantly. Benjamin Cross, Andrew Brennan's longtime attorney, stood first. Your Honor, he began calmly, this hearing concerns the lawful heir to the estate of Andrew Brennan and evidence connected to an ongoing homicide conspiracy. Then he submitted the DNA results. 99.99% probability. Andrew Brennan was my biological father. The courtroom erupted. People whispered loudly. Reporters scribbled furiously. Catherine closed her eyes briefly, like she'd been punched. Cross continued presenting evidence piece by piece. The hospital records, the bracelet irregularity, Helen Cooper's written confession, then finally, Dad's video. The room went completely silent as Kenneth Hartley appeared on screen, tired, afraid, still trying to protect me. You are my daughter, he said through the speakers. Nothing changes that. I broke down crying again hearing it. Across the courtroom, even strangers wiped tears from their eyes because everyone could see the truth. Kenneth Hartley loved me more genuinely than any biological parent ever could. Then came the restaurant footage. Bryce Catherine Gerald, planning my father's murder like a business deal. The second Catherine's voice said, Kenneth Hartley must be eliminated. The courtroom exploded into chaos. People gasped. Someone actually shouted, "Oh my God!" Catherine's lawyer immediately stood up, objecting, but it was over already. The damage was done. The truth was public now. Judge Morrison looked furious. Then prosecutors played my wire recording from Bryce's apartment. He should have died in that crash instead of Mom. The moment those words echoed through the courtroom, Bryce finally looked at me. Not angry, terrified, because for the first time, he realized there was no escaping what he'd done. Federal marshals entered minutes later with additional murder charges. Catherine lost her composure completely. This is ridiculous. She screamed while officers approached her. That girl is stealing my family. I stood slowly from my seat and looked directly at her. No, I said quietly. Your family was stolen 28 years ago. For the first time since meeting her, Catherine had no response. Nothing. Because deep down she knew the truth. Judge Morrison delivered the ruling just after noon. Based upon submitted DNA evidence and supporting testimony, this court recognizes Grace Hartley as the sole biological heir of Andrew James Brennan. Flashbulbs exploded everywhere. My heart pounded violently. $350 million. Mine? Just like that. But honestly, I didn't feel rich. I felt exhausted, broken, because the price of learning the truth had been my father's life. Olivia received the $2 million settlement Andrew outlined for non-biological heirs. Catherine lost access to nearly everything, and Bryce faced life-altering prison time. As marshals dragged him away, he finally looked directly at me. Hatred burned in his eyes. "You ruined everything," he spat. I stared at him calmly. "No, Bryce. Dad gave us everything. If you destroyed it, then he was gone." 9 days later, my phone rang while I was meeting with attorneys about the estate. Portland Hospital. My heart nearly stopped. "Miss Hartley," the nurse said quickly, "your mother is awake." I drove back to Maine so fast I barely remember the highway. When I reached the ICU room, Mom looked smaller somehow. Fragile, but alive. The second she saw me, tears filled her eyes. "Grace," I grabbed her hand carefully. "I'm here." For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then finally she whispered, "The pouch." "I found it." Her lips trembled. "You know everything?" I nodded slowly. The switch. Dad's investigation. The Brennans. Bryce. At Bryce's name, she broke completely. I'd never seen my mother cry like that before. Not even at Dad's funeral. "He was my little boy," she whispered. "I don't understand how I lost him." I squeezed her hand tightly. "You didn't lose him, Mom. He chose this." She cried silently for several minutes before finally asking the question she was most afraid of. "And Kenneth?" My throat closed instantly. "He made sure I'd find the truth," I whispered, "even after he knew they were going to kill him." Mom sobbed harder, but mixed inside her grief was pride, because Dad won in the end. They murdered him to silence the truth. And instead, he exposed all of them. A week later, I officially declined the Brennan last name legally, permanently. The media couldn't understand it. Why keep Hartley? Reporters kept asking. Because Hartley was my real family, not by blood, by love. Andrew Brennan may have given me DNA, but Kenneth Hartley gave me a life, and Patricia Hartley gave me a home. That mattered more than money ever would. Still, I knew I couldn't keep $350 million just sitting untouched, while families suffered the same failures that destroyed ours. So I created the Kenneth Hartley Foundation for Patient Safety and Family Protection. $150 million dedicated to DNA verification systems in maternity wards, hospital accountability investigations, legal support for switch-tap birth victims, medical corruption, whistleblower protection. Dad spent his final months trying to protect the truth. Okay? Now his name would protect thousands of families after him. The trials began in fall 2026. Gerald Hoffman received life without parole. Catherine Brennan received life without parole plus conspiracy and fraud charges. Olivia accepted a plea deal and testified against her mother for a reduced sentence, and Bryce received 38 years. The judge called his betrayal one of the most morally disturbing acts of familial conspiracy she had ever seen. I didn't attend sentencing. I already buried my brother months earlier. These days, Mom and I live quietly in Maine again. Same house, same kitchen, same Sunday pancakes. Sometimes grief still sneaks up on us unexpectedly. A song Dad loved. An empty chair at dinner. A toolbox sitting untouched in the garage. But healing comes slowly, and love survives longer than betrayal does. A few months ago, I found Dad's old brass compass in one of his work drawers. The engraving on the back reads, "True North always matters." I keep it with me everywhere now, because after everything that happened, I finally understand what he meant. Money lies, power corrupts, DNA can be stolen, names can change, but real love always points you home, and home was never the Brennan mansion. It was a small 3-bedroom house in Maine where a man who shared none of my blood still chose to die protecting me. That's why I'll never call myself Grace Brennan. I was born Grace Hartley in every way that truly matters. And I always will be.